Golden Radio Hour.
Wonder if prices will ever come down? Fed up with the post-war world? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you escape.
You are standing at the edge of an enchanted grove, lured by a soft, caressing voice inviting you to destruction. You have nearly sold your soul to an ancient goddess from whom you must escape.
Escape. Produced by William N. Robeson and designed to free you from the four walls of today. For a half hour of high adventure.
Today we escape to the African veldt and an enchanted shrine of great antiquity, as John Buchan told it in his weird story, The Grove of Ashtaroth.
We stumbled onto the place, Lawson and I, during the second day after we left Taki. We'd travel on horseback some 40 miles or so through typical African veldt, lush and green, with plenty of game and good hunting. It was late afternoon when we topped a rise and saw before us a small plateau of such beauty that we both reined in and sat staring at it, not speaking for some moments. A tiny, sparkling stream wandered through the verdant meadow grasses, and at the edge of the plateau tumbled in a crystal waterfall down to the plain below. Graceful clumps of strange trees grew here and there, and bushes blazed in a riot of bloom. I'd seen nothing remotely like it in all the miles we'd come. It stood alone, proud and lovely, an alien island in a sea of tropic jungle.
Great heavens, John, in your whole life, have you ever seen anything like it? If some artist had designed that plateau, placed every tree and bush by hand, it couldn't be any more perfect. It's almost weird, isn't it?
Yes. It shouldn't be here. It doesn't belong. But there isn't a plant growing over there that's like any we've seen in the rest of the jungle.
Probably a difference in minerals in the soil, something of that kind.
It's more than that. They're not even the same varieties.
It's true. That one grove standing alone there near the edge, I've never seen trees that slender and fragile.
And the bark, it looks like silver velvet.
Silver velvet, huh? That's quite an idea, John.
Yes, I guess it is at that. Anyway, those doves seem to like it. They never stop circling over that one particular grove.
They're probably nesting there. A flock of white doves circling over a silver grove. But, there's something vaguely familiar about that.
Yes, there is.
John, can you make out some kind of a dark shape there through the trees over toward the center of the grove?
Yes. Yes. Come on, let's ride over and take a look,
No. Not now.
Huh? Why?
I mean, you'll have plenty of chance to see it later.
What are you trying to say?
John, I'm going to build a home here.
A home? Out here in the middle of the jungle, miles from...
I'll build a road in from Taki. I've got money enough and no one but me to spend it. I've always wanted to live in Africa.
Always, Lawson? Or for the last 5 minutes?
It doesn't matter. Somehow, even though I'd never seen it, I've dreamed of this spot all my life. I've got to live here. Want to live here, I mean.
But so quickly, at least think it over first.
No, I don't have to think it over. I know what has to be done. John, it's here that I build my tabernacle.
I couldn't understand Lawson giving in to this sudden, foolish impulse. It wasn't like him. But there was nothing I could do. I left him at Taki the next day and returned to the matter-of-fact world of business in London. And it was 3 years before I saw him again. 3 years before I returned to Africa to find that he'd built a manor house in the jungle and equipped it with all the conveniences of the English countryside, of which not the least was Travers, his butler.
May I be so bold as to say it, Mr. Buchan? It's very good to see you again, sir. You bring a breath of old London out of this heathen foreign country.
Well, thank you, Travers. It's good to see you again. This is some different from the old granite front on Grosvenor Square, isn't it?
Indeed it is, sir. A great many things are different.
Yes. Mr. Lawson's turned this jungle clearing into a paradise on earth.
If you'll pardon me, sir, I think paradise is not quite the word.
Hmm? Oh, well...
perhaps I'd better tell the master you've arrived, Mr. Buchan. He's been lying down.
Oh, not ill, I hope.
I'll tell him you're here, sir.
Travers left the room and I waited alone, wondering at the strangeness of his manner. I had finally decided it must be induced by homesickness. I looked about me, as impressed by the austere magnificence of the library as I'd been by the grounds outside. There was an imposing mantelpiece of ebony at one end, and on it was placed an object elegantly fashioned of alabaster in the form of a half-moon. It was curiously carved with signs of the zodiac. There was something compelling, almost unearthly about it. Fascinated, I reached out my hand.
I should not touch that if I were you.
Huh? Oh, Lawson! I didn't hear you come in.
How are you, John?
Oh, fine, Lawson. Couldn't be better. You?
Shall we sit down?
Why, yes. Thank you. It's wonderful seeing you again, old man. Been wanting to get down here for the last 3 years, but you know how it is in London. Time gets away from you, and the first thing you know...
Yes, of course. Cigar?
No, thank you. Not now. When I finally did get the chance, I couldn't even wait for an answer from you. I sent a wire and then followed it right on down.
Yes, it surprised me a bit. Haven't had a visitor here for the last 2 years.
Oh? Well, then that explains why Travers talked the way he did. I thought it must be...
What do you mean Travers talked the way he did? What did he say?
Lawson, what's wrong with you? He didn't say anything.
Well, he'd better not.
I'm afraid
Forget it. I'm sorry, John. I haven't felt very well the last few days.
Well, that explains it. I say, at least you seem to be eating all right. You're actually getting a bit plump.
Actually, I'm fat. Gross, flabby, and obscenely fat. Isn't that what you really mean?
Well, no. I was only joking.
Never mind. What do you think of the place, John?
The place? Why, it's amazing. It's beautiful. No one could ever believe it without seeing it. I doubt if there's another place like it anywhere in the world.
You're right about that. There isn't another place like it anywhere in the world.
Oh, that reminds me. I noticed you left the grove as it was without bothering it. Tell me, did you ever find out what it was we saw that afternoon?
Yes. Yes, John, I found what it was.
Well?
John, I have an overseer here named McJobson, quite a competent man. I want you to leave with him in the morning, take a 3 or 4 day hunting trip. He knows the country. He'll find you plenty of game.
Oh, but I came here to see you.
I'm fighting about a fever. Happens every so often. I'll be all right by the time you get back.
Oh, now, wait a minute. If you're sick, I'm certainly not going to run.
You'll do what I tell you.
Lawson.
I'm sorry to talk this way, but I know what has to be done.
All right, Lawson. Whatever you say.
Good. Settled it. Believe me, John, I know what's best for me.
Yes. I'm sure you do.
Another thing, John. That carving that sits on the mantel, I must ask you not to touch it. It's quite old, rare. I should not like anything to happen to it.
That night when I retired, I found it impossible to sleep. I tossed fitfully, trying to think of some reason for the great change that came over my friend in these past 3 years. Drugs, drink, actual sickness, either physical or mental? No, none of them gave any complete answer. My windows looked out across to the turf, and I saw the grove of strange trees. It was bathed now in the moonlight by a soft, silvery haze. Even now, in the middle of the night, the flock of doves circled in the air above it, gleaming white from wing and breast as they wheeled in the shafts of moonlight. I dozed off finally, to wake up suddenly in that brief hour before the first light of dawn. I happened to glance from the window, and in the fading moonglow saw a figure approaching the house. It drew nearer, and I saw it was Lawson, barefooted, wearing a white dressing gown. Shortly, I heard his weary steps pass my door, and afterward the house was silent. I lay there wide awake. Lawson had been coming from the direction of the grove.
Good morning, Mr. Buchan.
Oh, morning, McJobson. Oh, sit down.
Thank you, sir. Now, in regard to that hunting trip we talked about, I can offer you a choice of 2 or 3...
No, never mind. I'm not going on any hunting trip.
But last night we decided
That was last night, McJobson. Tell me, how long has Mr. Lawson been sick?
Oh, it comes and goes. Happens about once a month like this. He's not the man that he was when I first came here.
Do you have any ideas about what might be the matter?
Aye.
Well, what are they?
If I told you what was in my head, you'd think me daft. Why don't you wait until tomorrow? You won't need to ask. It's the full moon, the next.
Full moon? What does that have to do with it?
You'll find it in the Bible. Read the 11th chapter of the 2nd book of Kings. Good day, sir.
I found a Bible in the library and thumbed it open to the passage he'd mentioned. I read through it once without understanding. And then one sentence seemed to leap out from the page. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians. Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth, of course, Ashtaroth. Goddess of the ancient East, whose strange rituals held a dark fascination for the children of Israel, over and over luring them away from their fierce prophets to worship at her shrines. The white doves of Ashtaroth circling the shrine of her silver grove. Why, then the grove at the end of the turf must hide a lost shrine dedicated to her worship. But what of Lawson? Did his blood carry one fraction from old Israel with the same ancient weakness to hear and answer the call of the goddess? Did he become an acolyte of Ashtaroth? What weird rites did he perform in the grove at night? And then I remembered tonight. The worship of Ashtaroth had always reached its climax on the night of the full moon. Lawson did not appear all day. And that evening, after dinner, McJobson and I took up our watch on the dark veranda, looking into the windows of the library. We'd been there at least an hour when...
Look. It's Mr. Lawson. Just came into the library.
I see him. Wait, what's he after?
I suppose he wants the little figure on the mantel.
We watched him take the carved half moon of alabaster and slip it into the pocket of the robe he was wearing. Then he turned and left the room. In a moment, he came out the front door and walked off across the turf in the moonlight.
You'd best give him a bit of a start and then follow him.
No, he'd see us for sure in that moonlight.
I do not think so. He'd not look back now, sir, if there were 10 of us following.
McJobson, what is it all about?
You've read the book?
Yes. Yes, it's the ancient goddess Ashtaroth, but what is the ceremony? What does he do, and what is it that made him the way he is?
The ceremony you'll be seeing, Mr. Buchan. As to what has made him like he is, he does an evil thing, and all the while he knows it to be evil. He cannot help himself, and he knows that, too.
Yes. I think I see what you mean.
We'd best be going now. He's gone into the grove.
We crossed the turf quickly and passed into the black and silver shadows of the moonlit grove, working our way carefully toward the center. The only sound at first was the piping of the doves circling high over the lacy branches above our heads. I saw as we approached that the center of the grove had been cleared to form a small circular arena. It was covered with smooth turf. And standing in the middle of it was a cone of rock 30 feet high, a smooth, sharp tower of stone that pointed up toward the tops of the trees. And then I saw Lawson. He stood by the base of the conical tower, his arms uplifted, the symbol of the half moon bound to his forehead, and chanting words with meanings I could not even guess. Now Lawson threw off his white robe and began a curious kind of dance, moving around the foot of the cone on a worn path beaten in the turf, the same path he must have followed many other nights before. He moved faster and faster, uttering now and again a wild cry. We stared entranced at the circle of moonlight. And as he danced, a strange new sound slipped into my consciousness, an earthly melody that seemed to come from the tower, from the trees, or may perhaps have been born within my own mind, tricked by the magic fantasy of moonlight, shadows, and perhaps madness. It brought to me one vivid thought of the warm, soft lips of an unseen goddess, of lips incarnadine, whispering gently and sensuously across the reeds of a panpipe. I stirred uneasily, felt the quickening of my pulse.
You must try to resist it, Mr. Buchan. It is only a thing of evil cloaked in a false beauty.
McJobson heard or felt it too. Then it was more than a trick of my own senses. Something in me thrilled to the core of the weird melody. I wanted to rush out and throw myself at the base of the stone tower to dance as Lawson was doing, to spend all eternity in adoration and worship of the beauty of Ashtaroth.
No, Mr. Buchan. Think what it's done to him. Fight it, lad, fight it.
I lost all knowledge of time. The dance had grown swifter and fiercer. The moonlit figure in the clearing moved faster and faster, postulating and gyrating in tempo to the crazy rhythm. My blood was pounding in my throat, my ears ringing. The music surged through my brain in ever-mounting waves of incandescent sound. Now I was beyond reason, possessed by an overpowering frenzy when the cock crew. Then the grove was deathly still, and at the foot of the tower, Lawson lay unconscious.
How is he, Mr. Buchan?
He's lost a lot of blood, but I think he'll be all right.
Good. It was a near thing.
Trevor's got a couple of sleeping tablets into him. He'll not be waking up before tonight, at least. McJobson, I suppose you know what we have to do.
I'm well aware of what should be done, sir, but I've no idea how to do it.
I think I do. I shall take full responsibility, but I'll need men, all we can get.
The natives will no go near the place, but there's some 30 white men on the tobacco farm a few miles back on the bush. But they want a high wage.
I'll pay it, just get them.
Would you mind telling me what you're proposing to do, sir?
Yes. Something that may sound as mad as Lawson himself. I'm going to deal with that grove the same way King Josiah did.
Hey, it comes back to me vaguely.
Yeah. Here it is. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which Solomon, the king of Israel, had builded for Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Sidonians, did the king defile. And he brake in pieces the images and cut down the groves. Both the altar and the high place he brake down, and burned the high place, and stamped it small to powder, and burned the grove.
Aye, 'tis the word of God. We'll need dynamite, but I have plenty of it down at the workshop. I'll go after the men first. We should be ready to start by 9 o'clock this morning.
just past 9 when we entered the grove, carrying axes and a couple of shotguns, and driving several teams of oxen. A light breeze had sprung up, and it whispered and rustled in the branches of the silver trees. We took care of the doves first, shot them one by one until we'd killed them all, 27, then piled their white bodies at the foot of the pointed rock. Then the men set to work with the axes, chopping through the slender trunks of the trees.
Don't miss a single tree. Get every bush. Drag them into fire.
Right, you are, Pep. All right, come on.
I stood by the stone tower, the high place of King Solomon, and watched while the work went on. Gradually born perhaps in the sighing wind, a strange fancy crept into my mind.
Oh, no. Please don't. Please, no.
I fancied I could hear a voice coming from the tower, from the trees. This voice was soft, warm, and pleading.
Listen with your heart. Can the spirit within you not hear and feel?
The heart of all sorrow was in that voice, and the soul of all loveliness. Distant, tenuous, with all the bodiless grace of a goddess older than time and desire.
Please, listen. Can you not know that I am beautiful, and once gone, am gone forever?
I could not believe that I was imagining this soft and lovely voice. I felt a sudden and overpowering adoration for this exquisite creature who whispered in the breath of the wind. I wanted to call out to the men, order them to stop desecration of her home and sanctuary. Then I thought of Lawson, of what he'd become, and I fought back the impulse.
How can you judge who knows so little? One who is part of the whole divinity of nature.
No, I won't. I can't listen to you.
Look at me but once with the eyes of your heart, and you'll belong to me forever.
No. Please, no.
You have killed my doves, covered their white breasts with blood. Are you not yet satisfied?
It's got to be done. It's got to be done.
No, please. You could stop now and leave the high place. New trees would grow, and other doves would come and nest in them.
But I can't.
What are you saying, Mr. Buchan? I couldn't quite hear you.
Oh, nothing. Nothing at all.
Well, I'm ready to put the dynamite around the tower here, if you'll move back a little way.
McJobson, perhaps we could leave the tower. Maybe it's enough to clear the grove.
'Tis not enough. The book says, and their children remember the altars and the groves by the green trees upon the high hills.
No.
That's no good, Mr. Buchan. They know heed to the voices of the wind. Every last stone must be destroyed.
Listen to the heart and the spirit within you.
No.
He is a stern man, and a cruel man, and his words are vile with hate.
No.
Leave me only this one last altar.
No. All right, McJobson. Go ahead with it.
Place the boxes of dynamite close together, lads. Easy now.
No. Even now, it's not too late.
I walked away slowly. The piles of tree trunks were burning now. The smoke swirled in the wind. I would leave this place tonight. Yes, I would leave this place forever. Then write a note for Lawson, telling him of what I'd done. And I was very tired.
Listen. Oh, please, listen. while there's yet time. The thing once done can never be undone, and once gone, I can never return.
I knew that my act, my reason told me all these things. I knew that this act that I'd committed had saved Lawson, had saved his life and perhaps his reason. And yet I wondered if perhaps in so doing I was not driving from its very last refuge on earth something that was so rare and lovely. If perhaps I was not destroying a very beautiful thing forever.
Stop now. Please, oh, please.
All right. Our goal.
No. Oh, no. No. No.
Silence. Nothing but silence. And I heard the sweet voice no more. And my face was wet with tears.
Escape. Produced by William N. Robeson, directed by Norman MacDonald, today brought you The Grove of Ashtaroth by John Buchan. Adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with Paul Frees as Buchan, Bill Conrad as Lawson, Kay Brinker as Ashtaroth, Raymond Lawrence as McJobson, and Eric Snowden as Travers. Music was conceived by Cy Fewer, with Eddie Dunstetter at the console. Next week.
When you're tired from working all week, when the weekend offers little diversion, next week at this time, when your problems seem just too much for you, we offer you Escape.
Next week, we bring you another exciting story of high adventure. This is CBS, where 99 million people gather every week, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You are alone on a desert island with a tribe of hungry cannibals who think you are a god. A tribe of natives who would eat you rather than let you escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson and designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to the South Seas and a cannibal kingdom in H.G. Wells' famous story, Jimmy Goggles. the gods.
I doubt you'll remember anything of the Ocean Pioneer, though a bit of the story that came to public knowledge made headlines in the newspapers at the time. Blimey, now that I think of it, it's been over 40 years ago it happened. 40 years. And at times yet I can still wake up in the middle of the night and see that cold, dead eye of Jimmy Goggles staring at me from the darkness. It gives me the creeps even now. It all started the night the Ocean Pioneer went to the bottom of the Sonner coast. Only 2 survivors, aside from myself, came out of that wreck. Mr. Sanders, the first mate, and a seaman named Jacob. And with a bit of luck, we had enough food and water in the longboat to see us safe to Papua.
Give away, lads. 3 nights will put us on dry land again.
Aye, it is lucky men we are this time.
All right, just one's our time here, Jacob. As it were for Captain Wells and 10 of the lads back there.
Lying under 20 fathom of blinking green water they are.
Ain't all that's laying back there either, lads.
You meaning something by that, Mr. Saunders?
Does either of you lads know the cargo we carried?
Aye. Copra mostly and some spices.
Not that. Lads, at Guinea we shipped aboard a chest full of gold dust. Worth 40,000 pounds.
40,000 pounds? I wondered about that chest at the time, Mr. Saunders.
That chest is still back there, lads. In Captain Wells' cabin.
Aye. 20 fathoms down. Yeah, it'll be a nice bit of work for the salvage company.
Not necessarily, eh?
What is it you're meaning to say?
I'm the only man alive knows ship's position when she sunk.
So you are. Go on, Mr. Saunders.
Suppose now, when we get to Papua, we give report ship struck 100 miles or so to the north. Then the salvage ship goes there, we come here, and pick up a title fortune for ourselves.
And how do we come here?
My brother-in-law has a brig in the Sydney trade. He'll come in with us. Well, lad, are you in or are you out?
40,000 pounds. I'm in.
Aye, 40,000 pounds. A bloomin' fortune there for the taking. Of course we went in on it. Back in Papua, Saunders made the arrangements with his brother-in-law, Captain Ferguson. And a fortnight later, we set forth in the brig Pride of Banya. There were just the 4 of us in the diving suit. It was one of them kind of diving suits that don't have a pump or airline. Carried its own tank of compressed air attached so you could walk around on the bottom independent-like. We hung the suit on the wall in a mess room, and believe me, it was some bright times we enjoyed besides it during the 3 weeks the Pride of Banya beat in towards Sonner Channel. We'd wonder how long it'd be before we'd get there, and what the salvage ship might be finding 100 miles away from the wreck. And all the time acting like we hadn't a care in the world. And that confounded diving suit would sway back and forth like a regular human being it would. And the glass window in the front staring like a big eye in the middle of its fat copper head. We got so we'd talk to it like it was somebody. And we even give it a name. Jimmy Goggles, we called it. Jimmy Goggles. And every time we'd break open some rum, we'd pour a glass or so into Jimmy Goggles. So by the time we got to Sonner, instead of smelling rubbery, his inside was as sweet as a cask of rum. When we found the place, we was afraid to take the brig into the rocks where the wreck was lying. So we anchored about half-mile off, and all of us rowed to it in the longboat.
Aye, she's still there, all right. I can see the tip of one of her masts above the water.
Devil take the mast. It's the fortune below I'm interested in.
Oh, fair. It'll be there, lad. Bear to the port a bit.
Hey, is it still agreed? I'm the one to go inside Jimmy Goggles to make the first trip down?
Aye, George. It's what we decided. Easy now. Nigh on to her.
I can't say I envy you none, George.
Back the oars now. Easy.
Yeah, got a line around the mast. Keep us from drifting. Better get into that diving suit, George.
Right away, Captain Ferguson. Aye. Just as happy it ain't me that's going down.
Huh?
Yeah.
Why not take it?
What are you talking about? It'll be cold and dark down there at 20 fathom. Might be sights that ain't good for a man to see. In the dark and alone.
Jacobs, you wander on like an old woman. I reckon the look of 40,000 pounds will cure a heap of other sights.
I'm ready, sir. Except to secure the faceplate.
Good. You know how to operate the valve?
Aye, sir.
And turn on the air.
George, you'll find the chest in Captain's cabin. Move it if you can, or see about the chances of getting a line on it.
Right, Joe.
And good luck.
Aye, good luck.
Good luck.
Well, cheerio, lads. I closed the little glass window in my helmet and fastened it. Then I edged toward the stern. Saunders was saying something, but I couldn't make out what it was. We didn't have no ladder, so I slid over the stern and hung there by the gunwale for a minute with the helmet out of the water. I took a last look at the light of day, and I let go. Slow it was. I sunk down through that green water. The only sound was the air bubbling out of the helmet valve. That valve, you understand, was the only way you had of controlling the descent of old Jimmy Goggles. If you opened it up, down you'd go. If you clamped it fairly tight, the suit would get full of air, and up you'd pop as fast as a man had cared to. Full 5 minutes or more it took to sink that 20 fathom. Them ghostly sea ferns went slithering past like snakes, and big purple and red clumps of jagged coral. And the light from the surface getting dimmer and dimmer. So as by the time I hit bottom, it was pretty near dark. I was happy to find myself come right down on the deck of the old Ocean Pioneer. And a familiar sight she was, saving for the crabs skittering around her planks, the bloomin' fish swimming past my head and goggling in through the window of my helmet. I made my way to the deck cabin. Right before the door, I stumbled onto a blinking skeleton, lying there on the deck as peaceful as you please. Judging by the gold braid still hanging on it, it had been old Captain Wells himself. So there weren't enough left of it now to make a decent meal for an hungry guppy. Bobbed around like very gentle when I touched it, and all the time was wearing an horrible grin on its bony face. Like to give a man the shivers. I tell you certain I got through the business down there as quick as I could. Found the chest of gold and figured out the best way to get a blocking line on it. But even so, it must have been an half hour before I clamped the air valve and started for the top. Halfway up, something hit my helmet and slid on down past. I found myself looking right into the blooming face of First Mate Saunders. His mouth was hanging open, and a kind of pink smoke was drifting out of it and making a cloud in the water. I saw he had a spear run through his neck from one side to the other, and he was dead on the mackerel. He sunk on past out of sight, and then Jacobs drifted down from above, and I could see his head was all twisted to one side like and his neck was broken. He was dead, too. Then it hit me. The lads on top had been massacred by a boatload of them bloomin' heathen savages, and like as not, if I poked my head out, the same would happen to me. Oh, blimey. I cracked open the helmet valve and shot down toward the bottom. I sat down there on a sunken rock for nigh on to 15 minutes, I guess, trying to figure out what to do. But any way a man would look at it, there weren't but one answer. So finally, crazy as it seemed, I got up and started out to walk ashore. After a while, the bottom began to slope up, and it wasn't so dark anymore. Finally, my helmet poked up out of the water. I saw the beach about 50 yards away with dark jungle right behind it. I sloshed on through the water and came out on the sand. Then I opened the faceplate and Jimmy Goggle did. Cut off the air from the tank and took a deep breath of the natural kind. That's when I saw them. At least 100 blinking savages painted up like banshees. It stepped out of the brush and started moving toward me, slow, beating soft on a couple of drums and growling low and evil-like. Well, George Herbert, you're in for it now, I tells myself. Half a mile of underwater walking and you're still forgetting your bloomin' throat cut. I snapped the faceplate partway shut and cracked the air valve a bit. The diving suit swelled up like a bloated frog. And I started walking toward them. When I got close, they moved back along two sides of a kind of path, and I walked right down the middle of it. It led back into the jungle, and pretty quick we come out in a little clearing with a grass hut standing in the middle of it. And sitting in front of the hut was an heathen idol, carved out in koa wood. Was grinning about as hideous as you ever hoped to see. And the idea hit me. I was in a spot. It couldn't be much worse, and maybe it would work. The natives seemed to be awed by Jimmy Goggles already. So I reached out and gave the idol a great push, expecting any second to feel a spear through my gullet. I looked up. Blimey, if them heathens weren't down on their faces, worshipping like mad. It had worked. Oh, not me, you understand. Except in the manner of speaking. It was Jimmy Goggles with his copper head and his one glass eye, with me inside him. They'd seen him walk up out in the sea, and they figured he was a god. Old rum-soaked Jimmy Goggles. A regular bloomin' god. After a while, it began to get on my nerves, so I went inside the hut. They stayed outside and didn't follow me, but they didn't go away, neither. In a couple of hours, it started to get dark, and I was wondering if they meant to spend the rest of their lives out there bowing on the ground. Finally, a tall native, painted up like a circus clown, stepped inside the door and stood there, just grinning like old Satan himself. Blimey, if I had me a pistol, my beauty, I'd have you grinning on the other side of your face.
Oh, would you now?
Huh? What?
You're speaking mighty bold for a man who's had a lot of luck.
Depart, unworthy mortal, for I smite you with lightning.
Oh, relax, one. I've been some time around plantations in Papua. Learned thing or two I did, including English language.
Jumping, Christopher. What the devil you doing here?
Taking advantage my simple brethren. Something else I learned at Papua. My name, Mamala. I'm high priest, witch doctor, call it whatever you want.
Oh, I'm happy to know you. Mine's George Herbert, officer of the English brig Pride of Banyan.
The late brig, you might say. Boys burned it a couple of hours ago.
Burned it? What for? Aye. Why was it you attacked us in the first place?
Oh, a bit of go like that once in a while keeps boys feeling joyful like, George. It's harmless in manner of speaking.
Harmless, is it? Not for my boys it weren't.
Oh, well. What were you diving for out there, anyhow?
Pearls.
So it now, mate. You are looking over that wreck down there on the reef. What's aboard her?
All right, Mamela. She was carrying 40,000 pounds in gold dust.
40,000 pounds? Know where it is?
Aye.
We could use 40,000 pounds, couldn't we, George?
I'm listening.
We might make deal. You keep on being the god, and I be your high priest. You can't talk their language anyways. Between us, we'll have him eating out of our hand. Meanwhile, we'll figure a way to raise gold off the bottom.
Hold off. You mean I gotta go on wearing this bloomin' suit all the time?
Only if you want to stay alive. They found there was man inside it. I tear you to pieces.
Oh, me, it ain't all it's cracked up to be being a god.
At least you're alive, mate. And we'll both be rich.
Aye. Are they going to spend the night out there?
They'll be leaving after ceremony, except for guards of honor.
I understand you. What's the ceremony?
Oh, a little piece of business with owner of Briggs. We captured him alive, you know.
Captain Ferguson? What kind of business?
A bit of this, a bit of that. When they get done, they cook him, of course.
Cook him?
Well, now, you wouldn't expect boys to eat him raw. Wouldn't be civilized, you know. See you in the morning, George.
Oh, it was pretty horrible, all right. But what with one thing and another, I didn't feel as bad about it as I might have. After all, I hadn't known the captain too well anyhow. Nearly a month went by in mighty uncomfortable fashion. And all the time, Mamela was trying to figure some way to get that gold out of the wreck. I was right in with him at first. Then I got to noticing how he was always saying what he could do with 40,000 pounds. And then I'd kind of remind him we was AFAs, and he'd grin, strange-like, and see, that's what he meant all the time. But I didn't trust him no way. And I started stalling every way I could, and things stayed about as they were. I kept on being a god, and we couldn't get no proper chance to go after the gold. Then one morning, Mamela and most of the tribe went back into the jungle to hunt. I was sitting in the hut trying to think of some way to do for that heathen before he could do for me, when I happened to hear voices outside. I sneaked a look through the palm hedge. It was an Englishman, dressed up fit to kill in white canvas shorts and a sun helmet and all. He had a native interpreter all dressed up and walking with him.
Here now. They're idols. Tribal gods.
But it's been turned over. Do they no longer worship such things?
Master, I could...
Looky here, gents. If you'll step inside, I'll show you what they're worshipping.
Hey, now.
Come in, come in. Welcome, gents.
Stop that heated chattering. I've taught you better.
Oh, now take it easy, lad. Nothing but a diving suit, you know.
Yes, of course. I saw that. Who are you, anyway?
Yeah, no, let's not be asking names, seeing as I didn't ask yours.
There's no objection to telling you, sir. It's Bender. I'm with the Royal Anglico-Papuan Missionary Society.
No, not really.
Please, no profanity.
Might be a slip. How'd you get here?
By sailing cutter, down coast from the Van Kiel Residency.
Well, you've had a bit of luck. If the boys was here, you'd be in a proper fix by now.
Oh, I dare say we'd be in no danger.
No danger, huh? What is it you'd call being cooked like a pork tenderloin? Have they done it to one of my friends?
An adventurer, no doubt. But the natives are well aware that if anything happened to me, there'd be a gunboat here from the residency in 48 hours.
Oh, that's how the wind blows, is it?
It is indeed. And may I ask why you're masquerading in that diving rig?
Aye. To keep from getting myself killed, that's why. The natives think this blinking rubber union suits a regular god.
I see. And you've been preying on their childish credulity.
Childish it may be, Mr. Bender, but they've got full-grown teeth. Aye, and I've seen them in action.
Well, you'll simply have to take your chances, because I'm going to expose you.
You know, you can't be doing that. Well, if they was to find out I was a human being, they'd do me in for fair.
Well, I'll help you as much as I can, but you should have thought of that before you tried exploiting them.
But you can't let it happen to a fellow Englishman.
Then why don't you leave now while they're away? You'd likely be able to get aboard the ship that's working a mile or so down the coast.
What ship?
Some salvage vessel looking for a wreck. They think it might have drifted down the channel from the north.
Oh, it just might have it there. They might find it. Mr. Bender, I'll make a proposition.
I won't promise anything, but I'll listen.
Leave here now and sail down the coast a ways and stay till nightfall. Then come back as soon as it's dark and I'll let you expose me to your heart's content. In fact, you might say, Mr. Bender, I'll even welcome it. Weren't nothing else to do. If that salvage ship found who I was, I'd be in it for good. They'd know by now that we'd filed a false report about the position of the wreck, so we could get the gold for ourselves. They'd put me in the brig for sure. And if I tried to leave with Bender, he'd turn me into the first British resident we come across. I had no chance at all at the 40,000. And if I stayed here, like as not, I'd end up parceled amongst 100 heathen stomachs. But I had one chance of showing that blinking mammal as how you weren't the only one that knew a thing or two. I finally talked Bender into leaving, and about dusk, Mamela and the boys came back.
Understand that nosy man, Bender, was snooping around here this afternoon, George. Know anything about it?
Bender, eh? Oh, that's who it was. I saw him prowling around the clearing, but he didn't come inside the hut. I'd have given him what for if he had.
It's a good thing he didn't. It's a blasted nuisance, always interfering with established customs of the people.
Like witch doctors, eh, Mamela?
Gods, too, George. He'd do for you quick and he would be.
Why don't the boys just eat it?
No. That would be too dangerous. He'd be missed and they'd send gunboats.
Not still around here somewhere, is he?
No. Women say he sailed on south.
Good. I'd just as leave not meet him face to face.
It was for him with that face you're wearing.
Aye, and I'm nigh on to being fed up with wearing it. Mamela me, auntie. I'll make you a proposition.
Mm-hmm. What kind of proposition, George?
Why don't you take over being God?
And what would you be doing if that happened?
Oh, leave me some food and water in one of the boats, and as soon as it's dark, I'll cut and run for it. It'll be easy for you to get the gold that way. Aye. And you can have the old 40,000.
Your generosity embarrasses me, George.
Anyways, supposing I was up and died sudden like, how'd you explain my body to the boys?
I have been thinking about that, but I hadn't figured it out yet.
I was wondering if you hadn't been.
You know a thing or two, don't you, George?
Enough to know you weren't going to share with me unless you had to.
Frankly, you're right. This may be best way. I'd have my little brethren right under my thumb. You out of my way with no need for explanation. All right, George. I'll keep the boys away from the clearing so you can make your break. Boats be ready in half hour. Good luck.
Always working out just as nice as you please. I made my break all right, but I wasn't heading for any boat. No, sir, not me. Leastwise, not yet. I hid myself in the jungle at the edge of the clearing. Then I waited. After a while, them savages started drifting back into the clearing, and pretty soon Mamela, all dressed up in Jimmy goggles, came out and sat in front of the hut, the way I'd been doing every night. And the blooming heathens started in bowing down, all just as usual. I waited a long time before I finally heard it, a commotion starting over at the far edge of the clearing and coming closer. It was Bender and his boy Friday, walking through the crowd to where Jimmy Goggles sat with Mamela inside him. The crowd moved aside and let him pass, but you could tell they were just waiting for that one-eyed god of theirs to knock him stone dead. He stopped in front of the hut.
All right, I'm back. Suppose you carry out your part of the bargain and take off that... Get out, you fool! I didn't really believe you were honest. All right, Thomas. Tell the natives this is nothing but a man dressed up.
Hey, Connie! Hello, can
Bender didn't jump onto Memel and start turning at the front of the diving chute. And all the time that heathen witch doctor kept trying to fight him off. And it seemed as though Mamala hadn't known how to fasten the helmet properly, because suddenly it tipped back on his shoulders, and there he was. A face them savages knew as well as their own offspring. And they didn't like it even one little bit. Aye. They'd been taken in by one of their hometown boys, so to speak, and they weren't for having any. They didn't harm Bender none, but they shoved him off to one side. They made one grand rush for Memel. And they got it. And blimey, if what happened then wasn't downright uncivilized. I cut and run for it and tumbled into that boat and shoved off. I couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for old Memler, though it wasn't as if he hadn't eaten his own share of human beings. And of course, he certainly wasn't a man who could be trusted at all. Well, it was a long time after, before I heard how Mr. Bender made out. Seems as though he couldn't get them bloomin' heathens to listen to him at all. Then one day he hit on the idea of climbing into that diving chute. And from then on he had a crowd around every time he'd open his mouth. As far as I know, old Jimmy Goggles may still be down there summers. With his battered copper head, and his rummy smell, and his one glass eye, he may still be doing business. Right down there at the same old stand.
Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.